Hello, everyone out there. Happy Sunday. What's up? I hope everyone is doing great. It is another Sunday broadcast coming to you live. Um, my name is Serene, and thanks for joining me for my Sweet Pea and Me. So, um, it is, I don't know about where everyone else is, but I am in New York, and it is freezing out here. It is definitely winter time, and so um, wherever you are, if you're experiencing the cold weather like we are, stay warm. I hope everybody is good and safe. Let's jump into today's topic. So it's kind of a funny one. I titled it today, My Daughter Called Me a Poopie-Head. So my daughter is 4 years old um, and just made four recently, about not even 2 months ago. And pretty funny story, or a pretty interesting story, right? So last week, we were in North Carolina. So if anyone caught my broadcast last week, or actually the week before that, we were in North Carolina on some business thing, handling some business, family and I. And so my daughter right now, she is in this stage where she's been potty trained for 2 years now. She's been able to use the bathroom for about 2 years now. And for some reason, though, she is holding it to the bitter end. So she does like this like potty dance. She's dancing, she's moving around, and you can tell she has to use the bathroom. And so we're like, go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. And she's, no, I don't want to. I don't have to. I don't have to. And she's still going like this. And so I take her into the bathroom, and I'm like, you have to use the bathroom. You can come back to whatever you were playing with. You can, you don't have to. You can stop and do what you have to do. And so she is not. And so I take her into the bathroom, and I go, we're staying in here, and we're not going until you try. And that's it. And so I put her on the toilet, and she sits there for a moment, and then she's like, and nothing happens, right? And so nothing happens. She doesn't use the bathroom. And so I said, try. And she goes, I don't have to. And she winds up getting off the toilet. I said, okay. She gets off the toilet, and she goes, I told you, see, Poopie-Head. And I said, no, you don't call mommy a Poopie-Head. That's not, you know, we don't do that. That's not nice. And I got down to her level, and I said that, and she looked so hurt. She looked so embarrassed. She looked so like, just she looked like she was really sorry for it, and but I said to her, I explained to her, no, you don't play with mommy like that. You don't call mommy names. It's not nice, and it's not respectful. She understand. She has heard the word before, and so I want to make sure that she hears it again, especially in the context of when she's not being respectful. So I said, you don't do that. And so she, all of a sudden, she's like, oh, she's dramatic, right? So she's like, oh, this whole world is changing. And I was like, huh? Like, where'd that come from? But I realized quickly where it came from. So she has two big brothers, and they play with her, and they play with one another like that. They call each other names. They crack on each other. They do that. And she does it with them. And when they do it together with each other, when they all do it, of course I stand there and I'm like, stop with the name calling, stop it. But they do it. And she uses it in the same context that she, in the same way that she used it with me, when she says something to them like, see such and such to, another brother, I told you, Poopie-Head, or I told you, whatever. And usually I scream in the background, stop with the name calling, and then they say it back to her and whatever. But the point is, her understanding is, this is where I use this. And so with her not having to use the bathroom, she felt like, hey, here's a place to insert that. And so when she had to be corrected, it was very shocking to her that you can't use that with mommy. Like that's we don't play like that. Like that's not how we play. And so for her to say this whole world is changing so much, it is also her way of saying, I'm trying to just understand it all. I'm trying to keep up with it all. Like there's so many different rules. There's different norms or different expectations in this arena and then in this arena. Like when I say this here, people laugh. And when I say it here, I just got reprimanded, you know? And so she's saying, I got to try to keep up. These things are happening and I'm just learning, you know? And that's the point of today's broadcast. I want to just remind you all of, you know, children who are 3 and 4. It's still very new to them, and they're not going to understand expectations and different behaviors in different places. Like when they try something in one place, they're going to try it in another place until they get corrected. But, you know, and it should happen like that. You know, that's how you start to learn that, you know, while I'm here, I can do this, and while I'm here, I can do this, and vice versa. But as parents and as teachers, we are responsible for our reactions and the way that we respond and react to them. So responding and reacting are very similar. They both are one's answer to a certain thing, you know, or the way one, I mean, I don't want to use the same word, but responds, or the way one answers something happening. That is your response. But when I think of reactions, I think of a more emotional thing. So you can respond to something without having a very expressive emotion to that, you know. If you just say, oh, that was okay, you know, you can do it with emotion, with lacking emotion, whereas a reaction tends to have more of a, yeah, that was okay, or such a, you know, and it has an emotion that comes with it. And so with children, my rule of thumb is to be very careful about my reaction, because your reaction can be very loaded, right? So when my daughter called me a name, I could have totally said, no, unacceptable, you don't call me those names, that's not okay, such and such. I could have wailed on her, you know what I mean? Because one, that's something that parents tend to do, and two, no, you don't want her I don't want her calling me names, and it's disrespectful, and I'm mom, and you should not do that. But there's 2 reasons I didn't wail on her. One, she's never done that before, and so I knew that she was trying something that she's never tried before. But 2, hey, all right. But 2, I also didn't react so strongly because honestly, I didn't want to disarm her. So when she's with her brothers and they go toe to toe and like, you know, going at each other, she's 4 and she does a really good job of holding her own with them. And so when they say things to her, she knows how to say things right back to them. And I don't want, just because I want her to know, don't do it with me, as long as they're doing it with her, I want her to be able to hold her own in that arena. And so I had to just teach. And so the teaching was, I know you do that with your brothers, continue doing that with your brothers, or do that just with them, don't do that with me, right? And just in that response to her, which wasn't fully loaded with emotion, she felt embarrassed already, you know what I mean? And she felt remorse, you know, or, you know, felt like, oh, you know, maybe that wasn't such a good thing. She already felt that. So can you imagine if I would have had a very loaded reaction to her doing that? I could have made her feel really, really small, you know, for trying something that she's never done before. And that's not my goal. My goal is to teach her these things. And it reminded me of a story. I had a few years ago, I had the opportunity to hear. She's an early childhood educator. Her name is Lisa Murphy. She's also known as the Ooey Gooey Lady. I'm going to totally shout out to her on this video because she definitely changed my life in my perspective as a teacher. So Lisa Murphy, the Ooey Gooey Lady. And she told this story that will forever stick with me about a little boy that when she used to be in the classroom, he used to, 4 years old, maybe 3 or 4 year old, he used to lick the Play-Doh, right? He used to like to lick the Play-Doh. So she tells this story that no matter what, the children would play with the Play-Doh and the little boy would sit there and lick the Play-Doh. And she said that, a teacher, she is so awesome, Lisa Murphy, I love her. The teacher, as a teacher, she could have responded and said, ew, that's disgusting, please don't do that, that's not okay, and she could have reacted in those kinds of ways. But instead, she recognized that this 3-year-old might have liked the taste of the Play-Doh. Like, now he couldn't eat it, and he wasn't eating it, he was licking it. But so for anyone who's familiar with Play-Doh, and what it tastes like, don't ask me. I do know what it is like. It's salty. You know what I mean? And why do I know? Because I've made Play-Doh with children before, and yes, I've licked my fingers afterwards, or, not licked them, but I've tasted it. I know what it tastes like. That's what matters. And so it's salty. And so this child must have been drawn to the salt. So what did she do? She made him his own little batch of Play-Doh. It is non-toxic. If you make it, you're making it with all the same ingredients that you do cooking with. Oil, water, salt, flour, right? It's nothing toxic. And so she made him his own small batch of Play-Doh, real small, put it in a plastic bag, and when he felt the need to lick Play-Doh, he had to go to his own stash, lick it, put it away, and go move to the next thing. And the purpose of that was to say, okay, I'm seeing that this is what you're needing or desiring, and rather than shut you down and embarrass you or make you feel like something you're doing is like insane, I do have to make sure that the other children are not exposed to your germs, because we don't want anyone to get sick. But by giving him his own stuff, he's not hurting anybody, and he's not hurting himself. And guess what? He's not going to be doing it forever either. So this 3-year-old is not going to be licking Play-Doh until he's 20, like, one would hope. But in this child's case, he was not. And she said that, once given that space to do that, he did it, he got his fix, he moved on, And so sometimes when these children are trying these things, we have to be very careful with how we react and respond, because you don't want to make them feel embarrassed. You don't want to make them feel, you don't want their confidence to be sucked away because you're, reacting to them. And so this is, we have to be careful with our responses. The other thing is, I think about my teachers, and I'll leave you with this. I think of my teachers sometimes when they have children who are doing unwanted behavior, like biting and kicking or spitting, because those are behaviors that 3- and 4-year-olds go through. I always tell my staff, my teachers, be careful with how you respond. Yes, biting is dangerous. Spitting is nasty. Kicking is harmful. Like, all of these things are definitely unwanted behaviors, and they can cause a lot of hurt. As far as the biting and the kicking is concerned, they can cause a lot of physical hurt to others. So no, we don't want those behaviors. But in your response, make sure you're teaching, right? So make sure you are telling them, hey, we don't bite people. Here are all the things you can bite. This is what's permissible to bite. If you want, you follow up with even giving them something they can bite. Give them a slice of an apple. Give them a cookie. Give them a thing. And keep reiterating what they can bite. Because just like my daughter with saying Poopie-Head, Is it so wrong to do it when her brothers are playing with her like that? It's not. Uh-oh. It's not so wrong, you know? But it is unwanted. You know, or I'm sorry, it's not so wrong. It's just about where and when and how you do it that makes it wrong. And so we want to be careful to not shut them down completely and make them think that the total behavior is incorrect, but just teach them where the context is, you know, in what context it should be used. So with biting, what to bite. With kicking, what to kick. Kicking is not wrong. If you kick a ball, it's totally not wrong. That's what it's for, right? But kicking a friend, no, not acceptable, right? So redirect them of where they can do it and teach when you respond. Spitting is also, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. But when you spit to brush your teeth, it's not so disgusting. It actually makes sense. So you teach a child, hey, we don't spit. If you have to spit, you spit in a toilet. You spit in the sink when you're brushing your teeth. This is where you can spit. At a friend, on the ground, no, you cannot. So you teach. You don't just slap them in the mouth because spitting is bad, right? Like, you know, that will, one might argue that will teach them. They won't do it again. But at what expense? At embarrassment? At physical harm? Not necessary. You know what I mean? It's not necessary, and especially not for the first time or even the second time that a child tries it or does it. And considering their age, 3 and 4-year-olds smack them in the mouth constantly. You know, at what expense? So let's be careful with our reactions and focus more on our responses. That's all. I hope that this was helpful. I thank you for joining me. I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.